Hey guys, James from SIKKY Manufacturing. As you can see, I've got a 1969 GTO here, which is going to be the next build series we do. We're going to chronicle the step-by-step process of basically a resto mod on this thing. So we're going to put a whole new drivetrain in it, replace the rear, replace all the suspension components, even the steering rack. So this thing is all original. It's pretty tired. We're not going to mess with the looks of this car too much other than maybe some wheels and tires, but when you walk up to it, it's going to be hard to tell that all the stuff that we're going to actually do to it's going to be under the hood. So we're going to modernize the systems, HVAC, the rear, the exhaust, the engine, the transmission. All is going to be updated to modern technology without ruining the look and the style of this iconic 1969 GTO. There she is in all her glory. All original engine and transmission on this car. Other than some maintenance and updates, it's never really had anything done to it. So we're going to yank this puppy out. So we're actually going with a brand new GM crate motor, which is their LS 376 525 setup. So our experience, it'll make close to 500 wheel by the time we're done with it, with the headers and the intake setup that's going to be on it, and our custom tune, which is kind of like the final piece of our turnkey builds. So this car, we transported it all the way from Ohio just for this specific build. So customer contacted us, wanted a build done on their car, and they wanted our expertise and experience with doing these LS swaps and restoration. So obviously this has the original rear axle in it and wheel offset, which, you know, old school, it's way tucked, not very aggressive looking. I mean, these are what I would refer to as a pizza cutter tire, which the amount of power this thing's going to be making, it might have worked for the old carbureted motor that was in this thing, but it's not going to give us enough traction. So we're going to get the stance right on this thing, so the suspension's going to get done up. Ride height's going to come down a little bit. We're going to put a much beefier wheel and tire under this thing to be able to handle the power that we're going to need to get to the ground. So not to mention this thing has an open differential in it, so everybody knows what the one wheel wonder is, and we're not trying to have this thing just lighten one up. So we're going to need both rear wheels getting that traction, so posi rear is going to be going in it. So first step we're probably going to do is get this thing updated with the suspension and make sure the platform's ready for the actual swap itself. The other thing too, obviously we're going to be going a lot faster in this car. It's going to put down a lot more power, so the brakes are going to get updated. Right now it's got the drum brakes on it. We're going to be going to a disc setup, so four-wheel disc brakes all the way around just to make sure this car comes to a stop at as fast as possible and safely as possible too. So the next piece that we're going to do with this setup is going to be getting the exhaust up to par with the new engine. So obviously, I mean, this worked for the engine that it currently has. I'd say it's probably an 1.5 inch diameter exhaust, but dual. So we're going to switch out to something a little bit bigger, at least 2.5 inch, maybe even 3 inch dual back exhaust. So with an X pipe in the middle, all stainless steel. Just make sure the exhaust is also matched to the output of this new engine. All right, so obviously people have been LS swapping these cars or the A-body GM platform for quite some time now. So we're actually going to approach it a little bit differently than everybody else, because a lot of times people utilize the factory clamshell style mount, which is mounted to the front subframe, and then they're using a small adapter to adapt that to the LS. But the problem is that the engine's not necessarily in the perfect position. So typical for our builds, you know, we go as far as putting the vehicle on scales, trying to get the motor as far back and as low as possible, because we want the center of gravity to be ideal and the weight distribution to be ideal. So obviously we're going to be shaving some weight off the front end of this vehicle by going with the all aluminum engine, but we want to get that motor in the ideal position, not just the easiest place to put it, but where's the best place to put the engine. So we're going to do what we do best and spend our time designing motor mounts and headers and everything that fit the LS to this car, and not necessarily try to change the car to fit the LS. So a little different approach than what most people do, and you know, at the end of this we're going to come out with a motor mount kit and headers and all the parts that anybody with an A-body GM platform like this can use to simple bolt-in backyard installation. So we make it real easy on them, like a simple complete solution, not just, hey, here's some motor mount adapter plates, good luck with the rest. So we're going to develop all the parts to make this swap easy for everybody else to do it, and chronicle the design and the thought behind what we end up producing through this whole build series. So it should be a great behind the scenes look at some of the design work and the thought and the process that goes into the products that we produce here at SIKKY, right here in the good old US of A.
Alright, so to get a true taste of where this GTO is as of today, stock, before we start this build, I think it's best we take it for a ride.
Alright, so we're going to take this puppy for a ride here and just get our first impressions of it bone stock, like the form it's starting the build in, so we kind of have a foundation of like what we improved on, and just kind of see the before and after effect. So first impressions, I mean, obviously it's anything you would expect with a 69 GTO, original suspension, and I mean it's basically feels like a boat sailing the 7 seas. So not exactly what I would call a performance vehicle for what we're used to building, so we're gonna definitely be able to improve on the suspension. It's carbureted, probably been forever since it's tuned. The thing does not run spectacular. If I try to floor it, it usually breaks up. But let's see what it... Yeah, not really smooth on the acceleration there. Felt like we had turbo boost kick in there when the fuel mixture cleaned up, but yeah, it's definitely, if we were keeping the stock mode on this thing, it would need a substantial tuning job to get this thing running right. But it has a lot of weight transfer, which isn't a bad thing, but the fact that it's got an open rear is not helping us at all, because even this old tired motor can easily light up the one rear wheel, which, if you imagine we didn't change the rear, didn't fix the traction issue, the new motor we put in here would be all for a waste, just because there's no way you're getting that power down to the ground. So definitely a modification that's going to be needed is getting that rear swapped out for a modern posi unit with disc brakes. So yeah, let's see if I try to floor it here one more time and see if we can get this thing to perform at all or not. It's a second gear roll. Yeah, not too fast, so plenty of room to improve on the power side, there's no doubt there. The other thing I didn't mention is we're probably going to be running a T56 Magnum transmission in it, so you can see right now like the shift travel. I mean, I'm probably moving my hand close to a foot on this shifter just to get it from one gear to the next. So it's going to end up with one of our T56 Magnum short shifter setups, which is also like a relocation. So we'll be able to have it come up out of this factory hole here and look OEM on the inside, but it'll be all new shifter that's 44% reduction in throw, so we get that real tight, consistent, gated feel with the shifter instead of this big floppy, it's like I'm driving the dump truck, for God's sake. So I think another area for some drastic improvement will definitely be on just getting the quicker shifts out of this thing, and a much stronger and nicer transmission than the original. So right now, like stock suspension, I mean, you cut the wheel on this thing and it feels like you're carving powder. I mean, it is like swerving and swaying, and could be the stock sway bars are worn out, or who knows if they're even on the car anymore. I haven't got a chance to even look at that part yet, but the suspension is definitely going to need a lot of work to make sure that power is getting to the ground, going around turns and stuff like that. I mean, straight line's one thing, but we also want this car to handle well. It's got to be a well-rounded build, not just tons of straight line speed, but we can't stop or we can't turn. We want it to stop, turn, have power, and be reliable. That's the end result of doing the drivetrain swap to something modern is we're putting a lot of reliability in this thing, where these old carbureted motors, I mean, you go out to it on a really cold day and it might take forever to warm up, run like crap. Then on a hot day, it's the opposite, and you've got other issues. So consistency, the modern fuel injection is a no-brainer these days, and it's just kind of smooths that all out and makes it super reliable and much more mellow. It's probably hard to see looking in the video how bad the suspension is, because luckily for modern day technology, we've got a gimbal on that camera, so it's not all over the place. But if not, you'd see what we've got going on here. I mean, this thing is, she's swaying like a beast.
What the?
So the other thing that, you know, we're gonna update on the brake system on this thing's all original. We got drums in the back, and you know, it's just not really meant to bring the car to a stop really quick. So I'll get it up to like top of second gear here, and we'll stand on the brakes and probably do an endo or a, you know, stoppy with this thing, the way the weight transfers to the front. We'll see how quick it comes to a stop. It's probably not going to be too impressive, but that's 50 miles an hour, and I'm standing up. Oh yeah, and she's locking up. But again, there's not a lot of grip on this thing, so I think a good example of the traction issues is we got to see if we can do a burnout on this thing, and I got a feeling we're gonna light up one of these pizza cutters and we're not gonna go anywhere. Do a little one wheel wonder for you guys.
All right, guys, as you can see, we've got this thing on the lift and we've got a lot of work to do. So make sure you like, subscribe, and check out the next episode where we're gonna tear into the suspension on this thing, replace the rear, the brakes, and get everything ready to roll, in hopes to have this drivetrain dropped in here in maybe 2 or 3 episodes. So don't forget to check it out. Thanks a lot.